engineering. Mr. Chaudhary has presented seminars at the UN Development Program. Additionally, he actively supports community organizations like ISOC and is a founding member of Shura Council.
Awesome. So Uncle Riaz, I'm going to spotlight your video right now, and then I'll have you get started with the question. So you can unmute yourself right now. Okay, so if you want to unmute yourself, we'll ask the first question of describe a life-changing event that occurred to you.
Oh, there we go. So
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So, the life-changing is kind of a fairly strong term in terms of when people think of life-changing experience, they basically think of, some people have gone through the hardship and they just become more either religious or spirituality, but there is other type of life-changing experience where you basically are on a certain trajectory and all of a sudden something happens to you and you are put into a completely different environment. Okay, so I'm not talking about becoming a religious, and that happened to me when I was a 15-year-old. I had finished my high school and I was kind of growing up in a very small community, and then my family decided that I need to go to school about 150 miles away and in a boarding school, while I have never been outside my 250 people community more than 5 miles. Okay. So I had to basically adapt to a completely different way of thinking, completely different way of living. I was put together in a room with 7 other students. Most of them were my age. And so I had to basically adjust very quickly from making no decision on my own, because all the decision for me was made. The type of clothes I wear, the where I go, what I eat. So now I'm completely on my own. School had a uniform, so I have to go and find where do I get a uniform, what I eat, who I communicate with. And I spent 8 years of my life in that institution. And, 2 years studying high school, 4 years studying engineering, and 2 years teaching. And I would think that that opportunity or that change is what brought me to North America and what I am today.
That's awesome. So your amazing biography had a lot of your accomplishments in it, but do you want to maybe describe your experiences more specifically in growing up in a smaller town, in a smaller community?
Well, like the community I grew up, practically everybody lived off agriculture. There was no cash economy whatsoever. Okay, it was basically everything was on a barter system. Like, I didn't go to a barber to get a haircut till I got to college. Like, the barber would basically come every Sunday to cut your hair, and you had to cut your hair whether you like it or you don't like it. Okay. You didn't have running water, you didn't have electricity, you just basically, it was a very simple life. And so you didn't really have a whole lot of awareness of the external environment and the opportunity that the world presents. And so it's kind of, that way, it was a huge, big transformation in terms of how I needed to think and how I needed to adapt to a completely different, because the college I went to was essentially 90% of the people lived on campus. So these are not the only people you attended classes with, these are all the people you lived with. and type of deal. And it was a large city. I kind of, from a 250 people community, I went to a city at that time, it was probably a couple of million people.
Yeah, that definitely would be a big change for anyone going through that. But when you adapted to your new lifestyle, you obviously had to encounter resiliency in some form. So how would you define the word resilience?
Well, the the resiliency is a kind of, again, one of those things that kind of is thrown around, kind of without really understanding. There is a technical term of it, and that's basically the ability to bounce back. That's why, every politician, whenever there is a hurricane or there is a big fire, they come all on TV and they tell you, we are very resilient. We are going to build our homes. We are going to repair our roads, everything, right? So it's generally used in terms of something catastrophic happened to you, like a disaster or a sickness or something like that. But to me, the term resiliency is more like a person's ability to adapt to the changing environment, okay? Because life is not really a static thing. As you go through the life, is more like a journey, and you go from one station to the next station to the next station. And my saying to whenever I talk to young people is that there are different stations in your life. It's like a train. If you miss a station, then you have a catching up to do. Okay, so resiliency is basically identifying like what environment you are living, what new thing you are facing, and then have the ability to adapt. Now that adaptation may be if you're going from high school to a college, nobody is going to wake you up in the morning, okay? Like when you're in high school, your mom and dad, they basically wake you up, somebody drives you. But when you go to college, nobody cares whether you go to school, whether you sleep, whatever. So to me, the resiliency is ability to adapt to the different circumstances, and also the ability to deal with unfortunate incidences in your life, because there is no smooth ride, because on the average person lives, if they're healthy, they live anywhere from 70 to 80 years, which is a long time. And there are going to be bumps along the road. Some may be larger, other may be smaller, and you have to just learn to navigate around them. And that, to me, is resiliency.
It's an amazing answer. Was there any major world event in your life that stuck out to you, maybe when you're in college or going through high school, that may have seemed like a hard time, but you came out of it stronger, or you got a new perspective?
Yeah, I guess one of the things that comes to my mind is when I was in the first year in engineering, and I guess I was one of those people who are always kind of the younger in the class. I was in the first year of engineering, and I was only 17-year-old, and this war started between India and Pakistan in 1965. Okay, a lot of people don't remember it. So the first night of the war, there are these planes flying in the air, they are dropping these flares, the whole sky lights up, somebody drops a bomb, the earth is shaking, and we had something like maybe 200 students in this one hostel. Everybody is running out and kind of to not know what to do. And so So it was something that we had to adapt to because it was a completely new experience in terms of dealing. So the following day we found out that this pilot apparently was not very good. So they were dropping these bombs just basically anywhere. They were out in the field and everywhere. So in 2 days, we just basically learned to completely ignore them. You know, like the siren goes on, you just basically sleep through it. You don't worry about it. And that's where the big picture I learned was that the life around you can change at any moment. Like there are things that you can control, but there are things that are controlled by others. Okay. And this was a fairly short war, about maybe 15. But there were students I was going with, their villages were destroyed, all of their economic structure was destroyed. So we have to basically pull together to help them to stay in school. So that was a kind of a new learning experience. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And going on to different learning experiences in your life, did you have any regrets?
Yeah, but you know, you guys have picked up these loaded terms, you know, for the questions. Okay. So again, you know, the regret is something, it basically implies that you lost something, whether it's an opportunity or it's something which is permanently gone. And so my perspective is that in life, basically, you make decision. Every step in the life, you have to make decision. Every day you get up and you have to decide which clothes to wear, right? Some people just basically, you know, if they're going to party and if they wear wrong clothes, they go to the party and they regret wearing wrong clothes, okay? So, so every decision involves a logic, emotion, and a risk. And when you make that decision, you really don't know what the outcome is. You just speculate. You have a model or you could consult other people and things like that. So I guess in my life, if I can go back, one event was that when I was in the university for my second degree at UBC in Vancouver, I met this guy and he basically talked me out of going to the PhD and basically getting out and finding a job and then going back in 5 years to complete my PhD. So I basically thought that was a great idea at the time. I considered everything and I got out of the school. I got my second master degree. But then as the fate has it, I've never found time to go back to school because it didn't make any logical sense after I was out of school. Because I said the decision is based on logic, emotion, and risk. Okay. So my emotion always told me that I needed to do a PhD. That's why I came to North America. But after I got out of the school, logic and the risk said that the cost of opportunity, the cost of going back to the PhD and the opportunity, the cost benefit is not worth it. Okay. So I've never gone back to school. So the logic and the risk has won over the emotion. And so if you could call that a regret, I suppose it could be a regret, but that's what it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And for the last question before the Q&A, so everyone drop your questions right now in the chat to everyone so I can see them, or you can send it to me privately. But Uncle Riaz, what is your final piece of advice for the next generation or our generation?
Okay. You know, like sometime I hear on TV, these people who go to graduation ceremonies and give this pep talk about, you know, everything. And so I have never been to a graduation in my life. no, even though I have 4 degrees. So what I would basically, I will leave, I guess your audience is really young. So I will leave them with a few thoughts. One is that the world you are going to live in, or your journey is going to occur, is going to be very much different than the world, the people you look up to. People who might be your parents, people who might be your uncle and aunts, or even some of the people, you know, who might be 20 or 30 years older than you are, because it's going to be a different world. So you will need to navigate it based on different set of rules than, let's say, I navigated my life. Just to give you an example, I went to school from, you know, after grade 10, I went to school for almost 10 years. I never paid tuition, okay? It was always free. And even the other costs were fairly marginal. Now, the students who are planning to go to school this year or maybe in 5 years, unless you're lucky to, you know, somebody can finance your education hundreds of thousands of dollars, you will come out loaded with the student loan, okay, which is a completely different reality than getting your education and not having any financial obligation. Second thought I will leave you with is always try to maintain a balance, because in the current age of this media where everybody is talking to everybody, there is a lot of emphasis on happiness, okay? Everybody wants to know, are you happy, okay? Now, if you look at the definition of happiness, happiness is a temporary state. It's not a permanent condition. It's basically sadness, happiness. These are all transitional. So you can transition from one to the other. So try to develop yourself somewhere in between where you are content most of the time. And for a short time, you are maybe too happy, and maybe a few times here and there, you are a little bit sad. But try to be content. And contentment is a fairly difficult thing to achieve because there are too many distractions and too many other things that goes in life. And so that's what I would say you should try to do. And the third thing I will try is try to develop some habits that you are more self-reliant in terms of your ability to problem solve things, okay? Don't freak out when you have a little difficulty. You can't understand a problem or you're getting somewhere late. Try to use your logic and try to find the sources of information where you can problem solve things. Because there are two things in life that you are going to need to succeed. One is the knowledge. The knowledge you can gain reading a book, you can go to Google, you can go to, but the most important thing is how to apply that knowledge. And that's what I call problem solve, okay? You could have too much knowledge. There is, you know, like this Persian poet who says, if you load up a donkey with books, that donkey can't solve your problem. So similarly, you have to kind of develop a self-reliant skill to problem solve. That's basically application of the knowledge, okay? And the fourth thing I will leave with you is try to establish certain boundaries, okay? Based on who you are, what you want to be, and then try to operate within those boundaries. And that may be in terms of your education, in terms of your personal life, in terms of your relationship with your parents, in terms of your relationship with your extended families. So you need to have those boundaries so that you can operate within them, because there is nothing single point. Your life is going to require some flexibility, okay? It may not be resiliency, but it's like, you know, when you stretch the rubber, it kind of takes different forms. So you need to establish those boundaries and try to kind of operate and be flexible.
Awesome. I love that advice. We have a lot of questions for you in the chat right now. So
Okay.
you'll have to give your rapid fire, very quick answer so we can get through all of them. So who was your biggest role model as a teenager?
Well, my biggest role model as a teenager was this one of my, well, you know, when I went to school, I had no role model up to the age 15, okay? Because there was no such concept of a role model. I even didn't know if I'm going to go to college, okay? Other than the local college, you know. So when I went to high school, I guess, what was the grade 11 and 12, there was this one professor in the university. He was kind of my biggest role model, and he kind of, if I had any type of, if I needed advice, he was the person I went to. Yeah.
Awesome. Another question that you've gotten was, if you could give some advice to your younger self, what would you tell your younger self?
Oh, well, if I gave my advice to my younger self, I think it would be kind of like when I started teaching in the university. You know, I graduated, and the university gave me a job to teach right in the same school. And I think I probably just took the easy path to accept the teaching job. I probably would have learned a little bit more about how the world works if I would have gotten outside of the school and worked in another different environment. Yeah.
Oh, all right. Another question was relating to your engineering profession specifically. So what was your most favorite project that you've worked on so far, or that you're proud of?
Yeah, I guess the project, the most favorite project I worked was the city of LA to clean up the beaches. Yeah, I was involved with that program for 8 years, from 1988 to 1996. And when we started the program, you could not swim on the Southern California beaches all the way from Santa Monica to Manhattan Beach. They were all polluted. Mm-hmm. There was sewage going in there. So we cleaned them up.
Awesome. And did you, learning from those experiences so far of working with projects and working with other people to now kind of being isolated in a pandemic, how do you continue to stay positive?
Well, yeah, you see, like, even though I'm kind of in the house, but I still spend probably good part of my day, 2 to 3 hours, communicating with all the employees. Okay, so I'm not really never alone. People are calling me, I'm calling them, they have a problem, something needs to be done. So while I miss face-to-face interaction with employees, because we don't do that, but that's the thing. No, I have so far left the kind of religiosity out of this thing, but one of the key component, I guess, dealing with your loneliness is ability to do something spiritually, okay? Because that kind of gives you calmness. Whether you do yoga, or you do stretch exercises, or you do Muslim prayers, or whatever you do, it gives you little discipline and calmness. So fortunately, I have a habit of praying 5 times a day, so that breaks up my day. And I spend in the morning, every morning, I spend 1 hour walking and in the gym. Okay, so that gives me a good start. And then the employee keep me busy, so I don't feel lonely at all.
That's awesome. I'm so glad that you were able to continue definitely your work in quarantine and your normal work routine. But I think those are the biggest questions that we have for you. So I just want to personally thank you for coming on here. I know I very much enjoyed your talk right now, and I'm sure everyone else has. So again, thank you so much. And inshallah, we'll have you and your wife come talk to us soon again, because you guys were such an amazing Olivers to represent both Olive and other members of the senior community.
Okay, it was a pleasure talking to you guys, and hopefully I didn't say anything that offended anybody. Okay.
Thank you so much, Uncle Riaz. You're more than welcome to stay or leave, because you're going to do
Yeah, I already got a call over to take care of. Okay,
Awesome.
so I'm going to leave.
Awesome. All right. Salaam alaikum.
Thanks. Salaam alaikum.